cheat on me with my best friend? I'll wreck your career and publicly humiliate both of you. Ted and Sarah have treated my wife and me like family for numerous years, almost since we moved in across the street from them. We were really close as a group of 4. Our children are the same age as theirs and are best buddies. We were all one huge family. We ate supper together many times a week. We have trips together. Ted was like a brother to me, and my wife and Sarah were close as well. The news of an affair between my wife and Ted caught me totally off guard 5 months ago. My wife had left her email open on our computer, and I saw an email from her to her long-standing therapist in which she said that Ted would be accompanying her for an upcoming appointment again. WTF is going on? My thoughts raced. Why on earth would Ted be attending her treatment sessions without my knowledge? I ran a search and discovered some further emails to and from the therapist, confirming that Ted had been attending sessions with her for around 6 weeks. I examined our phone account and saw that they had been sending hundreds of SMS every day since late summer, culminating in about 500 per day by the holidays. In terms of the holidays, my wife and I hosted both our families, parents, siblings, etc., for Thanksgiving and Christmas dinners, and Ted and Sarah joined us for dinner or after dinner on both occasions. My wife and Ted were messaging each other across the room the whole time they were at our home celebrating with our families, according to text records. For months, they did it pretty much every time the 4 of us got together. And, just all day every day in general. But what disturbs me the most is that they were doing it right in front of Sarah and me. When I presented the proof to my wife, she acknowledged that she and Ted had fallen in love. It occurred right now. I'm not sure how. But I adore him, and I'm sorry I don't feel anything for you anymore. They'd gone on a school district trip together, something had occurred in her hotel room, and things had escalated rapidly. She stated, as I lay face down on the sofa, unable to look at her, that they had already made preparations to move out and divorce me and Sarah, and that although they didn't intend to move in together right away due to the kids, they would most likely do so soon. Meetings with the therapist were purportedly largely for the purpose of finding a gentle way to break this to me and Sarah, since they were so worried about our well-being. Sarah and I am very persuaded that they had no intention of informing us about the affair at all, and that they intended to discover their affections for one another many months later, when they'd found another cause to divorce the 2 of us. My wife left 2 months ago. I was and still am completely shattered. Every day, I weep. I was crying when I wrote the first few lines of this narrative. I'm always concerned about the influence on our children. But I'm also not a shrinking violet when I believe I've been mistreated. And in this situation, I was objectively terribly mistreated. So, a few years ago, Ted ran for a seat on the Board of Education as a huge underdog. I assisted him with campaign materials and debate preparation, and my wife, a well-known school district employee, this will be significant later, spread the news as best she could. To our amazement, he won in a squeaker, by just a few hundred votes. Ted's universe revolved on his position on the board. He volunteered for every committee he could find. As they were frequently attending to school activities and meetings together on nights and weekends, this became the basis of his affair with my wife. When I discovered the affair, my thoughts soon moved to vengeance, and it seemed to me that an extramarital affair between a member of the Board of Education and a school district employee was at best poor politics and perhaps a violation of district policy. Making matters worse for them was the fact that my wife was in the running for an available administrative post, and everyone knew she was almost certain to get the job and the significant salary boost that came with it. She had just completed her master's degree in school administration at the request of her principal and superintendent in order to be promoted to this precise post. I had lots of proof of the affair, including messages from both of them confessing to it, text records showing that they were messaging hundreds of times per day, emails to and from the therapist, and so on. I contemplated just sending all of the proof to the board and the superintendent, but I was concerned that as the grieving, betrayed husband, I would not be seen as a reliable source. Instead, I made up a bogus furious buddy who planned on attending the next board meeting and publicly humiliating the 2 of them for their affair. I informed my wife that I'd attempted to talk them down but couldn't promise they wouldn't come up and publicly disgrace them. As I predicted, Ted came to the conclusion that the only way out was for him to acknowledge the affair to the board ahead of time. Ted agreed to quit when the superintendent advised it. He was embarrassed and saddened, according to Sarah, and he couldn't get out of bed for a few days thereafter. When news of the affair and Ted's departure spread, the superintendent, a longtime friend of both my wife and Ted, approached my wife and emotionally told her that she would no longer be promoted to an administrative position within the district. An outside applicant eventually filled the post that had been set up for her. This caused a flurry of uncertainty and speculation around the area, since it was well known that my wife had gotten the position. Despite our failing marriage, my wife and I took our kid out to breakfast on his birthday the day after she was told she wasn't receiving the promotion, and a parent dropped by our table to congratulate her on her new post. She thanked him and excused herself to weep in the toilet for a bit. I waited a couple of weeks for the dust to settle before telling them my little secret. There was never a furious buddy threatening to expose them in the first place. It's just me. All of this has spread across our very small town, where Ted grew up and where my wife has worked for over 20 years. My wife refuses to tell me how things are going at work right now, but I've heard from certain people I know in the district that her once clean reputation has taken a knock. Ted, who was formerly a boisterous social presence in our area and at local events and bars, has entirely disappeared and only emerges to mow his lawn. He's leaving shortly, to a rundown small town house that's all he can afford because of all the child support he'll have to give his wife. Despite the public humiliation, my wife and Ted insist that they want to attempt to work things out. I wish them the best of luck. I'm sure it'll be a lot of fun for them to show their faces about town together. Update: here's a record of their messages and phone conversations from a few months before I found out about the affair. Obviously, their phone numbers have been removed. Answers to some often asked questions in the comments: are you and Sarah together now? That would be amazing if you could be a thing. No. We're good buddies. We've been tremendously essential to each other from the beginning, and we've undoubtedly grown closer, but not in the manner everyone expects. This would be so much more difficult to cope with if I didn't have her to depend on, and she claims she feels the same way about me. After all, we're in the same position with the same players. Ted hasn't moved out yet, but once he does, we want to bring the kids together more often, like they used to. It'll never be the same, of course. She already comes over with the kids on occasion, but it's difficult with Ted's continual presence across the street. Didn't your vengeance harm both sets of children? No, not at all. Ted had a day job. The Board of Education was his pastime and passion, but it had no effect on his income. And my wife has been promised that if she wishes to apply for an administrative job with another district, she would get wonderful letters of reference from her superintendent and principal. It'll require giving up a lot of business ties in the process, but given the blow to her reputation, I'm assuming she'll do it sooner rather than later. Meanwhile, since she is not going to an administrative position, she is still able to spend her summers with her children. Why do you refer to her as your wife rather than your ex-wife? We're moving through divorce mediation, but it's not yet final. It will happen shortly. Why didn't you see all of your wife's texting? Yes, I did. It was really beginning to irritate me. It was overkill. She has a large social network and texts often, but it was getting out of hand, to the point where she was entirely neglecting me and the kids. I asked her to agree to a no phones at the dinner table rule in November, which she grudgingly agreed to but then pouted during dinner, and finally she simply resumed using her phone throughout dinner again. All of this to say, I was deafening. Not only was the messaging becoming strange, but her friendship with Ted was making me uneasy. Sarah had observed it as well and agreed. We approached them directly about it a couple of times, and they both swore up and down that it was just school topics they were talking about, and there was nothing more going on. And for whatever reason, we believed them, possibly because the mind refuses to perceive what it does not want to see. Thank you, by the way, for all of your remarks. I wasn't able to respond to everyone, but I did read them all and appreciate them all, even the brutally honest input from those who believe I did the wrong thing. Posting this and reading all of the answers brought me to angles on all of this that I hadn't considered before, and most importantly, reminded me that the agony I'm experiencing is very typical considering the circumstances I'm in. I had a good Memorial Day weekend, despite missing my wife and fantasizing about what we'd be doing as a family. I'm bringing my kids camping next weekend, and having something to look forward to and prepare for makes me happy today.